Hi, I'm going to make a quick video explaining how to connect any sound system to a computer to allow you to use the sound system for Zoom calls, Skype, Teams, Webex, whatever. This setup will work with any conferencing software. So what you're going to need is basically three things. You're going to need a mixer, at least a stereo mixer of some sort. This is a Mackie 1202, which is a really common stereo mixer. You're going to need some type of audio interface, nothing fancy, just a basic. You're only going to use one input and one output on the interface, and you're going to need a computer or laptop or whatever you're running your conferencing software on. So there's basically a few things to keep in mind. I did a basic diagram here of the hookup. So the inputs to the mixer would be, like, say, a podium microphone, if this is in a conference room, or whatever normal microphones, wireless mics would go into one input. And then you're going to have, because the people in the audience side of the call, on the far end of the call, so to speak, are going to need to hear people in the room making comments in the room, and for that you would use room mics. That could be just as simple as just a microphone set up on a stand that's near the audience. So if somebody in the audience has a question that needs to be heard over the Zoom call, you would use these room mics. So the second piece of equipment critical to this is the interface. So what you're going to do is take an audio output of the mixer and you're going to connect it to, on here I have the left main out of the mixer connected to just input 1 on the interface, this Behringer, it's a Behringer UM1 interface. So the output of the interface, audio output of the interface, goes to its own input on the mixer. So the output of the mixer goes to the input on the interface, and the output of the mixer goes to a spare input on the interface. Now, obviously the interface is going to be connected via USB to the computer, because otherwise it wouldn't work. Then you're going to have another output on the mixer that's going to connect to the PA systems, to the sound system. But it's going to be, if you notice here, the left output of the mixer goes to the input on the interface, and the right output of the mixer goes out to the PA system. And that's important that you keep those two separate. It doesn't matter left or right which one you use, but as long as you keep them separate, the one side, one left or right, feeds the interface, and the other side, whichever the other side is, feeds the PA system. They have to be kept separate. So here's where it gets a little bit tricky, is the signal routing. You need to feed anything, like I put here in the notes, mixer channels panned left, in my example, feed the video interface. Channels panned right feed the PA system. Channels panned middle feed both. So I'll give you an example. The podium mic, you would want the podium mic to be heard in the Zoom call or whatever, and you'd also want the PA mic, the podium microphone, to be heard in the room. So that mixer channel is going to be panned middle, because that way it will be heard. It'll be sent to the audio interface, which is the Zoom, and it's also being sent to the PA system. Your room mics, you don't want those to be heard in the PA system, but you do want them to be heard in the Zoom call, because that's the whole purpose of them, is to pick up people talking in the room to be heard over the conference call. So for those channels in particular, you would want them panned left, all the way left. So you only want them to go to the Zoom meeting. You do not want them to go to the PA system. And the other thing about that is that they would feed back immediately if you fed them to the PA system, because they're room mics. So, and the other slightly tricky thing here is that the output of the interface, which is the output of the Zoom call, is going to be the people on the other end of the Zoom call, the people on the far end, so to speak. the people on the Zoom call, but you only want them to be heard in the PA system. You do not want the Zoom call people calling from the Zoom call to go back in the input of the interface, because that will cause a feedback loop in the interface, and you'll get a loud noise, and it just does not work. So that's where these two have to be kept separate. So this you would pan all the way right, because anything coming out of the right hand channel only goes to the PA system. It does not go to the Zoom call, does not go to the interface whatsoever. So like I said, this is just a basic hookup. You can adapt this hookup for any type of stereo mixer, and you can even adapt it to even a more complicated mixer with different groups and all that. But this is just a very basic diagram of a very basic setup for Zoom, Webex, whatever, and this will work. Yeah, and the other thing obviously is you're going to have the like I put here in the notes, you're going to have the USB audio selected for the speaker and microphone in your video conference software. And your video conference software should, if this is plugged into your computer, should immediately see this interface, and you're going to want to select the interface for the input and the output of the interface, and that should work. Have any questions? Ask me in the YouTube questions, and I'll answer back as soon as I can. Thanks.